Hello YouTube, this is Tammy Pie and I'm back with another video. I'm doing the third day of 5 days, 5 VRs. And this VR, this is kind of a VR. It is actually got completely twisted up because I've been trying to do this VR for kind of a long time. And every time I would get about a third of the way through it, it didn't feel authentic to me. So yesterday it just came to me, I'll just do it. There was a video a while ago, like a long time ago, that Sanskrit Blue did. And I'll try and link it if I can find it. But she told a story with the tarot cards. And I think she picked the cards out like purposefully, like she had gone through all her decks and picked out each one. This one I'm just gonna, I took a bunch of decks. How I did it was this. I took a bunch of decks that I thought described parts of me, almost like a pieces of my soul situation. And then I just took the decks kind of in order of a life story and put them, because I think our identity is kind of our history, what made us, who made us, the things that we've lived through and accomplished or not accomplished, the mistakes that we've made. That's what makes our identity. So there might be triggers in here. I don't know. My life story, if told from the wrong perspective, is almost tragic. But it didn't feel that bad at the time. It actually felt like a wonderful life at the time. So without further ado, here is my tarot identity. I'm going to start before the beginning. I'm going to start with what the astrological weather was when I was born. And it was in June of 1964. So it was the year of the wood dragon. And this is, of course, in this dragon bag made by Giselle of Mad Witch. We have the Smoke, Ash, and Ember. This is the original edition because it's all dragons. So my dad used to tell the story of the day I was born on my birthday. And he would talk about how my mother was in labor for days. My daughter was also in labor for days. And they both had their babies, their first children at home in an upstairs apartment. And I'm sure there were very different experiences. But that's where I was born, in an upstairs apartment in a house in Berkeley in the year of the wood dragon, 1964. When I was young, we moved around kind of a lot. My father was a poet, and my mother left him before I was born, but my dad was a musician, and he moved around quite a lot. So things were always a little strange. And I was probably kind of a strange child. In fact, I know I was. My mom has told stories before of me kind of playing around in small cupboards and hearing and seeing things from a very small, young age. And so my very young childhood was kind of dark and spooky, like the Moonshadow tarot by Ibiza tarot. Ibiza. But along with musicians and poets, I was also surrounded by a lot of other kind of art and artists. A lot of my formative years as a young child were in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I had a great imagination and a lot of fun. This is the first edition of Playful Heart Tarot by Kittenchops. And this does remind me of an imaginary world where I would sing show tunes that I made up myself and pretend that I was friends with the mice in the kitchen. And you could kind of make friends with anyone, even though sometimes it wasn't easy. Sometimes there were scary things, and other times you feel like nothing can ever hurt you. So this tarot deck does remind me of what goes on in the mind of a young child with a very big imagination. As I got older, as we all invariably do, I rebelled. But since I lived around rebellious people anyway, I rebelled even bigger. So I actually would go and live in other places with other families. And one of those other places that I lived at as a teenager is New York City. And talk about perilous. Sometimes when I think back on my teenage years, it's a wonder I survived it all. But everything makes more sense when you look back on it than it did at the time. And I was the kind of kid who would just take all the money I could find and put it toward a bus ticket and just take off to the next thing. Sometimes it worked out and sometimes it didn't, But I had a lot of fun. That's Banksy Tarot by CooptyLew. But eventually, no matter who you are, reality hits and you realize that you've got to stop. You've got to do things kind of in a more normal, more livable way. And sometimes it's something as simple as having a child. For other people it might be something else, but for me that's what it was. I had my daughter when I was 23. And it changed me from like one thing into another. almost overnight. I had no idea that I could love someone so much, that I could be so responsible, that I could take things so seriously. But I did. And honestly, it probably is what saved me in the end. Because I'm sure that those teenage years could not have been, I couldn't have kept doing that. So I had 3 children with my first husband. And I thought that that was all there was that I needed. But not every situation can be maintained. Sometimes there are things that you just can't live with, and there were. So things had to change again. This is the independent version of the This Might Hurt Tarot by Isabella Rotman. So I took my 3 small children and hit the road, like big time. I got in an airplane and I decided I was going to do all the things that I couldn't do when I was stuck. And we took train trips and we visited several different states, and sometimes we had nothing, sometimes we had a little bit, sometimes I had friends, sometimes I got somewhere and couldn't find my friends. That was really tricky. But you know, there are times when you think everything is going wrong and someone will step up and just be the kindest human being. And that happened to me more than once. You know, people can be really good. And then at the end of that adventure, I got to Denver and started my my art degree at the Colorado Institute of Art. And that was really great. I really enjoyed it. Supernatural Tarot from Insight Editions. And then, you know, I began to have like romantic thoughts about what I wanted my world to be like. I wanted things to be better for my children. I wanted our life to be a little grander, not so sparse, not so scary all the time, with every corner being a little dangerous and every walk possibly ending in some kind of drama or danger. I didn't want to be in danger anymore. I wanted to be safe. I wanted someone to be with, someone to care for us. And there he was. This is when I met my husband in Denver. And the two of us got a lot done. We went places. We did vacations. I had 2 more children. And we kept going. We were building towards something. Or so I thought. This is the Gothic Literature Tarot by Sirian Shadow. This is the Touchstone Tarot by Cat Black, and this is the Kunadi edition. So when we first were together, we were both very busy. We were trying to do all the right things in all the right orders, but it didn't always happen like that. I wonder if this deck is in order. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I'm just flipping cards. And sometimes it was really difficult. Sometimes we were both exhausted. We ended up having 5 children. We both worked for a while. We lived in Louisiana for a long time. And there came a point where I could no longer work. I was severely injured in a work accident. And so he kind of took on the financial responsibility. And I spent a great deal of time recovering from that. Kind of working my way through doctors and therapists and surgeons and this and that and the other. And nothing ever really worked. It seemed like I was in pain all the time. And this lasted more than a decade. And as it turns out, we find out after it's all said and done that that was my own moment with the opiate crisis. So I was being prescribed meds that were, of course, so addicting that they actually leave you believing that you're in so much pain you can't live without them. And I did. I mean, in part, it was because of the medication. I became morbidly obese. I was always in bed. I didn't eat well. I didn't do anything right for myself. But somehow things work out. I don't know why, but at some point I just said to myself, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I stopped. And I pretty much stopped a lot of this stuff cold turkey. Sometimes they would try and help me, but in general, another pill is not really going to fix the problem, right? You have to realize that you've tied yourself up in knots, and you have to untie yourself. This is Tarot of the Crone by Lorenzi-Prince. So, as I was waking up from my probably 13-year-old days, realizing what I had missed and how I had been asleep the whole time, I began to look at myself a little closer and try to remember who I was. So it was at this point when I started studying tarot. And the tarot at first is quite mysterious. It's a big puzzle. And the more you look at it, the more you realize that all you're doing is holding a mirror up to yourself. You're looking at your own issues, your own problems, and you're lighting them on fire. You might think you're giving other people help, but really, the tarot grows inside you. And you become something new. And sometimes that means leaving other things behind. Sometimes it means making decisions and becoming what you are. Now, remembering is not always the easiest thing. This is the first edition Tyldwick Tarot by Lovell. Because your memory, especially after having done the things that I did, can be really hazy. It can be hard to see all the way back to your dreams from when you were young, through all the different things that you've tried to accomplish. Maybe sometimes you were successful, and other times you made mistakes, and maybe even didn't even notice, but you just kept plowing on, doing the things you thought you were supposed to do. Because in the end, there's supposed to be reward, right? Maybe not. Maybe some doors are shut to all of us. And that's okay. Because you can still dream. And maybe just dreaming is enough. Because life is all about living. And we have to keep going. So, one day, I told myself, things have got to change. I can't keep doing the same thing that is making me unhappy and expect better results, because that's crazy. So I picked up a few things and I just walked away. And it was scary. So scary. But every day is a new day. And there are very important things happening all the time. And I've got to be a little gentler with myself because I don't have that much longer to go. A lifetime is actually quite short, especially when you've already gone through 60 years of it. So this next phase of my life, I've decided to give myself a little grace, to be gentler, kinder, more open, more relaxed, calmer, more aware of what's happening around me. And it's working out. I think it's going to be okay. It's still scary sometimes. Sometimes I'm afraid it's not going to work, or that I've done something wrong. But I only get one life, and I got to live it. And that is my tarot identity. Thank you for coming.